Don't worry about it. Ladies and gentlemen, with my 20 years of experience as an entrepreneur, as a professional, as a social worker in the fields of textiles, one thing that I've learned is that one always needs to have an open door policy. We need to be very open. We need to be very honest, not only with our colleagues, but with the formula that I've always have to be a good listener. 20% has the other important thing that I've also learned in these 20 years is that you have to learn to give ownership. You have to learn to let go of the reins. It's not the end of the world. I'll tell you in the line of logistics, one day the management called me in and I said, you know, Amir, we need to do project cargo. And we have been doing conventional way of doing business for the past 25 years. But there's a catch to it. The catch is that we have to bring in CPAC as project cargo. And at that point of time, I did not realize what he was saying. There was a catch to it, because from pillar to post, I went to the Chinese consulate, I went to their trade commercial side in PCHs, got hold of all the information as much as I could obtain. I went and knocked every single door of Chinese company that I saw in that list. And guess what? They were shut doors. They were not shut doors because I was knocking on the door. They were shut doors because there was something missing. There was a link missing. And that link was the language. We didn't understand their nature of work. We didn't understand their culture. We didn't understand their mindset. And moreover, we didn't understand their language. So I came back to the management and I said, you know what? We need to bring in Chinese. We need to have Chinese in our front in order to open these doors. Otherwise, they will never open. And I'm really grateful to my management because they were looking at the bigger picture. They were looking at the picture with a bird's eye view. The far-sightedness was there in that management. They said, go ahead with it. Now, that again itself was a challenge of how do we bring the Chinese on board. So obviously with the help of our HR team, our management, our colleagues, friends, we were able to convince a bunch of people to come to Pakistan and work with us. Now these bunch of Chinese people were not just Chinese people, they were very young people. They were from the ages of 18 and 25. I believe you guys are also, you come into that bracket of 18 and 25, of course. And they were inexperienced. They were coming to a foreign land. They had no knowledge about logistics and how we did business. But there was only one factor which was very common with me and them. And that was the willingness to succeed. They were charismatic, they were enthusiastic, they were aggressive, and they were team players. And that made all the difference. Now, interestingly, when we brought them on board, we gave them boarding, we gave them lodging, we gave them security, we gave them pick and drop, and we made sure that they should be comfortable. And I feel and I believe that it is very important that the people that you hire, you have to make them comfortable. You have to support them where they need that support, not only just locals, but the people that you're also bringing on board. Now, we had developed an SOP for them, a standard operating procedure of our marketing strategies. And guess what? They proved me wrong. They had their own plans. So I applied that rule of 70, 20, and 10. A good listener, question and answers, and expedite. They introduced me to an app called WeChat. They said, boss, primitive methods, email primitive methods. Let's go on to WeChat. All the concerned people we want to get, we'll get it on WeChat. Trading, we do on WeChat. Facebook, we do on WeChat. WhatsApping, we do on WeChat. Okay, can you download it? And then we started working on WeChat. With this remarkable dynamic team, we went and met 137 Chinese companies in 9 months. And we worked with 12 companies. The 137 companies that we went and worked with were sole proprietorship, were private limited companies, were public limited companies, and they were state-owned companies. Now, and there were a couple of frauds also, by the way. You find them everywhere. Especially with the Chinese, you have to be a little careful on that way. Now, the business went up, everything went up, but where the problems arose, and that is something that is very important for us to look into. The problem arose that our operational team initially, when these Chinese people came on board, refused to work with them. Now, there's a strong possibility that they didn't want to work with them because that they had maybe a language barrier, maybe they were shy, maybe there was a communication gap over there, or maybe they were lacking confidence. Now, one of the most dynamic girls that I worked with, she comes in and she said, boss, I have a great plan for you. I think we can bridge the gap. I said, go on. She said, you know what? We can start teaching them Chinese. And once we start teaching them Chinese, we can get them in one room, make it mandatory, and we'll teach them Chinese and we'll be able to bridge that gap. That jijik will finish. I said, what do you propose? They said, on Friday, after Juma prayers, everybody's relaxed at 2:30 or so. At 3 to 4, let's all sit down together in a room and let's start talking about China. Let's get them introduced to China. If we can't take them to China, let's bring China to them. So we started having the session and I said, boss, but you also have to attend because you have to learn Chinese also. Unfortunately, I've just remained with ni hao mao and ni hao. That's it. But my daughters learn Chinese. And today my daughters speak Chinese. So in the first session was a very interesting session. Chinese itself is a very interesting language because it has about 5,000 characters in it. You all know that, right? The letter A does not just say A. It's like Saregama Padanisa. You know? So in an environment like that, what happens is that you come out of your shell. And the minute you come out of your shell, you ease off. Your muscles relax. You start moving around. You feel comfortable. You are no longer threatened by the environment. You accept it. You adopt it. Eventually what they did, they became such good friends that these Chinese people were invited over to their houses. They were introduced to their families. They were introduced to their mothers, their fathers, their wives, their children. And then we started having quite a few outings so that they become more comfortable. That synergy that developed was remarkable. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't do anything. They did it. Because what I did was I allowed them to have the ownership. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when we used to go visit customers, I used to be basically talking, they used to be listening, and then eventually I said, guys, you have to take over from me. And the way that you have to take over from me is that it's like, oh, that's the bunch of the crew that we were working with. When they took over from me completely, and I became just their driver. I used to just take them to the customer. I used to sit over there quietly, sipping their green tea, which I really enjoyed, the herbal tea, and they would communicate. They would show the ownership. They would make sure that they give inquiries. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? The organization which was there for 25 years working and coming up to a certain standard, these kids from ages of 18 to 25 brought their organization, their department up to that level at par with 10 of the sales and marketing people in that department and just these bunch of people who were completely inexperienced in a foreign land made it happen. Like Sir initially said, nothing is impossible. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give you another example is when I joined this company. And I tell you, it was very challenging when I joined the company because I was coming from a textile sector into a logistics sector. I will tell you all about that later on. And they gave me a bunch of 10 people with an experience of 15 to 20 years, and they put in a room for me, and they said, you're going to be managing these people, and you're going to make sure that the sales goes up. 10 dynamic salespeople, individually, they were brilliant. But they were caught in the swamp. They had the eye on the ball. They knew exactly what are the targets that they have to achieve and make, but they were stuck in that swamp and they were not being able to come out of it. So what was a challenging bit was that getting them in a room, which I used to do that on a daily basis from 9:45 to 10:30, and what I did was I grabbed the bull by the horns. About the trade. But I just made one request and one suggestion to these dynamic people. Problem. Make sure that you have to come with two solutions. Otherwise, keep the problem to yourself. Now, when they would come with two solutions, obviously I didn't know the solutions. So I would do an open house. All the 10 individuals in the room would give their suggestions or their solutions, whether it was worthwhile or not. So in 3 months' time, what came out of it was those brilliant, dynamic individuals started communicating with each other. They started helping each other. They started responding to each other. The egos finished off. Moreover, with that 200 years of experience in that room, they taught me the trade. The sales went up 30 to 40%. More companies came on board. And when I went for international marketing for nomination business, with the knowledge of textiles that I had and the newly found knowledge that they gave me, came in very handy in order to bridge the gap with our counterparts also. What they were looking from me was guidance also. I'm really thankful to my management that they allowed me to go out and develop relationships with the consulates, with organizations, with chambers, with associations, and develop that kind of relationship where I get to know all the MDs of the company. I understand their business dynamics. I understand the concept of the business and how we can penetrate into it. And I would just guide these people of going and introducing themselves to their supply chain managers and bringing more business on board. That guidance from my end came in really helpful, and the respect along with it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when I was called in for an interview in this organization, My only question was, why me? Why me? I have no knowledge about logistics. I know nothing about, I don't know the difference between a reefer and a standard container. They said, no. You will realize that people like you, like people like us, like people like you all, the educated minds, people like the gentlemen that we have with us right now, all of us, we think out of the box. And that realization came into me within a year's time. When I got bored doing conventional methods of doing business, I said, this is really boring. Where we make a $25 a container, we can be making $2,500 a container. And that's what we did. So that was thinking out of the box. Now, a lot of people will be having this question. Why did I leave textiles and got into logistics? It wasn't by choice. It was by chance that I got that opportunity, and this management allowed me to do so. Again, something very important that I would like to share with you, and probably I don't think I've ever shared this with anybody. Why did I leave my family business of textiles and becoming a professional? There's a vast history behind it. My father and I are best of friends. My father and I, we share everything under the sun. We go out, we hang out, we chill out. Our communication is excellent. But when we are at work, the situation is very different. What he has built over a number of years, and I'm sure a lot of people can share that idea with me. He's the boss. He has the final word. Whether I have differences with him, whether I agree or disagree, it's one of those things that I will not be able to raise that question in a meeting. And that became very overwhelming for me because it's not my personality. My personality is also very aggressive. My personality is, if you're doing something wrong, I will tell you you're doing something wrong. We need to fix it in a proper manner. And this is not the method that we have to go ahead and do it in. So ladies and gentlemen, because I would not like to use the word frustrating, but very overwhelming to that great extent that I had to step out and find my own calling. Now, with this experience of being an entrepreneur, being a professional, what I've learned is important. That you have to give people the initiative. You have to learn to trust. You have to engage them. You have to involve them. You have to listen to them. Whether they are right, wrong, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, you have to give them the ownership. And once you give them the ownership, you will be really amazed and very impressed. I think with that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this session. I would now like to call the Dean of Management Sciences, Dr. Amir Feroz Shamsi, for the vote of thanks and to